Hey everyone, so today on Stocks on Earth podcast, we'll be talking about defeating oneself and the steps you and I can take to accomplish that. And in order to accomplish defeating yourself, you need to start at the beginning of your life and work your way all the way to now. So today, that's what I'll be doing. And I just want to make it known right now that this podcast won't be bashing anyone. It won't be putting people in a negative light. What it will be doing is getting all the negative things from people in my life or negative things from myself in order to put it out there in order to finally defeat it. You got to see the bad you. You have to look in the mirror and see that person that you've been running away from, see that person that has been controlling your life. So yeah, so that's what we'll be doing today. So my early my early years is where I will start, and then I'll like skip around to parts that I feel are more important that shaped me into the man that I am today. So as a young child, I had both parents. I had both parents. Then my dad went to California. So I guess I'll go with him first and how he impacted my life as my father and what I am doing now to better our relationship. So when my dad was around, it was a great time. You know, always love having my dad there. I guess every boy does. But the love that my dad gave us was far from perfect, far from what a father should give to their children. There was a lot of mental and emotional abuse that was said to us, that was said around us, and that right there is what made me started having like depression, having anxiety because I felt less than worthy, I felt less than dirt sometimes in my life. And now, what I'm doing about it now, I made a conscious decision a while back ago that because he didn't want to have a relationship with me back then, it's not his job to have one with me now. I'm an adult, I am older, and I can now get to know him. I am making an effort to love him, to get to know him, and to have him, I guess, redeem himself with his grandson. He loves his grandson to death, and that's something that I wish that I had growing up. But it's neither here nor there. It's in the past, which we're gonna leave it. So, like I was saying, growing up, there was a lot of mental abuse. He was a big guy when he was younger, but then slimmed down when he got older, and we were always big. So there was a lot of like comparing us to other children, or saying that our weight was bad. I'm improvising. I don't want to go into specifics, but yeah, there was a lot of negative talk, and there wasn't a lot of emotion or emotional side to him. Fathers, they're supposed to have, you know, that little bit of motherly love in there. And growing up, I didn't see it in him. There was a lot of like distance. There was a lot of not really knowing if I'm pleasing him how a son should. And that was tough. Of course, there was always the occasional, oh, look what you did, blah, blah, blah. But there was no, I love you, or there was no, give me a hug, or let's go play outside. If we did play outside, it was once in the blue moon, and then that was it. And with the emotional stuff, like I don't remember the last time. I said I've loved you to him. It feels weird now. Occasionally he says it when we get off the phone, but now it's always a weird thing to hear. I'm trying to hang up quickly so if he does say it, I can deny that I heard it. But I'm happy that he is becoming that person. It's just me not knowing how to feel because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't get comfortable with hearing that from him. So when he says it, I feel as if a stranger is telling me they love me. But of course, I love my father. Don't get me wrong. Just the the verbal "I love you" throws me off, and that's the type of hurt that I had, you know, for the longest because not hearing "I love you" can make you feel like that person doesn't love you, which is not always true. People can show their love through actions or through different things, but that would have been great if there was actions put in place that made me feel like he loved me. Like going outside, tossing the football back and forth. And now that I have my now that I have my own son, and now that I get to experience these things with him, I envy my son in a way because I wish that I had a dad like me growing up. Not that I'm number one dad or the best dad in the world, is that I make an effort to love my son. I make an effort to get to know him as much as possible because right now it's physical. Right now, I see my son as a 1 year old. I see him as my baby, but 2, 3 years from now, it's going to be a memory. So the memories that I want to have that far down the road, I have to, I have to do, I have to do something. I have to, play with him outside. I have to tell him I love him so that he can have those memories, that I can have those memories because I don't want to take now for granted because my son is perfect in my eyes, and taking that for granted is like telling God, "Thanks for the wonderful gift, but there's better things," and that's not what I want. I feel like God has given me one of the perfect angels that He has had or that He has created, and now with my dad having a relationship with him, it's it's beautiful. It shows me what was hiding under all that hatred, hiding under all that pain that he has received as a child. He's told me some of the things that he's been through, which is not an excuse. Sometimes you just have to grow up and put that behind you. But I understand a lot of people don't, and I don't hold that against him no more. But if you wanted to, I feel like you could have done it, or you could have been better. So with the emotional and physical abuse with him growing up, that has shaped me into the individual that I've became. And throughout this story, you'll hear how the characteristics that he had, I will surely gain with the relationship that I got myself into. So with my mother was the love of my life. My mother was my rock for the longest, and I couldn't see her in no wrong until I did. And it wasn't even her fault. It was me not understanding that adults make decisions based on how they feel, make decisions on, oh, sorry, my thing fell. Make decisions on emotion. And I tried to, as a kid, comprehend that, and I couldn't. You know, a kid has to stay in a kid's place, but after I saw my mom in that negative light, it was like seeing your God with a flaw. You don't know how to react. You don't know how to bring it to them. So you hold it in. You bottle it up, and hopefully it goes away, or hopefully you can see them in that light again. But again, life happens, addiction happens, and people's choices change. So yeah, I mean, it was tough, and of course, she was the only parent there most of the time, so she got the the eye of the storm. You know, she was in hot water all the time because we had no other parent to vent to. If my father wasn't home, it was because of her, or if she told us no, well, you're the worst person in the world, or we didn't have the new video game, it was on her, and we put so much on her, and I feel like that led her to make decisions down the road that are now impacting her as much as anything right now. But as we got older and as we moved, yeah, when we moved to the house that we grew up in, I feel like she made a conscious decision to give us everything that we asked for, or to handicap us with different things. Like if we didn't do our chores, she would come behind us and do it. Or if we wanted a toy and she couldn't get it, she would let us know that she was doing her best to get it. And then, you know, a month later or weeks later, we would get said toy or video games. And we thought that's what, you know, was cool. You know, we always loved when mom got us gifts. But as an adult, looking back, that was probably the worst thing that she could have done. And not, again, not blaming on how she raised us. She did the best that she could have with three boys and two girls, raising us alone for years at a time. But now that I'm older and material things fade, I wish there was more structure. I wish there was more discipline rather than emotional and or emotional and mental abuse that we received. I wish there was more of constructive criticism telling us, hey, this is what you need to do. This is why you need to do it. And I still love you afterwards. You know, there wasn't that. We would do something wrong. We would get hateful words, and then either she would break down from the stress, or she would clean the house, or she would fill it with, you know, different addictions. But we had a lot on our parents as they had on us. You know, there's always flip sides to the coin. I'm not going to sit here and say that we were the best of children. We grew to be spoiled. We grew to be hateful. And that was because of the position that we were in. We knew right from wrong, but I'm going to stop saying we because I can't speak for them. So I felt like they deserve us being bad. You know, they couldn't give us the family that we deserve. So why be good? Or they couldn't, you know, they were saying hurtful, mean words to us. So why should I love them as much as a child should love their parents? So that was, you know, a big thing for me with my mother. So I'm going to skip ahead to middle school when I started going to a predominantly white church, and seeing them and seeing how they interacted with their family is something that I wanted, is something that I craved for because I thought that was the so-called American dream, having children, having a wife, and just loving each other and wanting that and not knowing what that was fully. I started becoming a hypocrite. And a lot of people don't like calling themselves hypocrites because who does? But on this podcast and in this one specifically, we air out the bad, and you need to bring the the evil you in front of your peers, or in front of your family, in front of your friends, so that you can see this negative you, so you can finally defeat them. Because once you defeat yourself, the rest is peace. And I'm hoping that this podcast can help a lot of people to find that peace, because that peace is is wonderful. I wish that I would have had it sooner, but better late than never, I guess. So in middle school, I started living a Christian life. Well, I guess you can say that. But I started, letting people know about God, or telling them that they were in sin, that they were falling short for God, falling short from God, but behind closed doors, I was the epitome of a hypocrite. I was addicted to porn a lot, and that made me see women differently. That made me see a relationship differently. But then I would tell my mom and stepdad that they need to get married so they can find favor in God, and all of that type of jazz. So being a hypocrite and telling people what they need to do, and me not doing it myself, made me feel lost, like I didn't know who I was. And that's when depression got real for me. That's when I started hating myself. That's when I started hating the individual that was looking back to me in the mirror. But I would go to church and smile in these people's face, or I would tell them that everything is okay, because what they had, I wanted, and I thought in order to get that, I needed to be happy. I needed to emulate their emotion, because their emotion is what got them to that place, which is false. Now that I'm an adult with my own child, and now my broken relationship with my child's mother, I noticed that in order to get that life, you need to feel pain, you need to struggle, you need to defeat yourself, because I've seen what demons can do to homes, to people. I saw what not defeating yourself can do. And I saw it even in my own relationship. So in middle school, that's when I, became a Christian. I started wanting everything that they had. So in high school, I thought I was the bee's knees. Sorry, I cracked myself up. But now I started to fully get into God, and not really knowing any other way. I became a hypocrite so much that I felt like it was normal. I felt that that was me. I felt like I could tell people whatever they want, as long as the people at my church saw me as a good person, as a good Christian. I didn't really care what I did outside of their eyes. So in high school, it was pretty tough. I didn't really have a lot of like female attention, and I didn't really put myself out there, because being told I was ugly, or being told by people that I was going to die alone, that really hung with me all the way, really now. I'm now getting over it. I've now defeated that person. So I have a lot of confidence now. But in middle or high school, I didn't. I let a lot of opportunities pass me by. And I just thought if a person likes me, they'll like me. They'll come up to me. They will be God sent, I guess. And I went throughout high school without a girlfriend or without any type of love, I guess, but still was addicted to pornography like really hard to where it was getting like unhealthy to the point to where it's like I didn't see women as women. They were just objects. They were just another porn video or another piece of happiness that you can just receive whenever you want. So after high school, I got accepted to some colleges, but again, with the lack of self-esteem or the lack of love, I chose not to go to a university. I ended up going to the community college, and with the community college, I was still living with my mother, and I didn't feel motivated. I didn't feel eager to go to college, and I ended up flunking out. And at that time, it was like a reality check. What am I going to do? I couldn't do school. Am I going to be a nobody? Am I going to be a bum? Am I going to relive the cycle that came before me? So I was just going from job to job trying to figure out what I liked. And I met this person that went to culinary school. And I was like, well, I like to cook, so I'm going to give it a try. The fun fact about me, when I like something or I think something interesting, I jump into it head first. I jump into it as quickly as I can, not really knowing the pros and the cons. So I begged my mom to help me get into this culinary school, and the first 6 weeks were great. I enjoyed it. But then the new class came in, and I met this girl, and this girl was the first girl to find me attractive. I'm really not sure why, but she did. And again, not going through the pros and cons and not getting to know her better, we started dating. And this was before I started smoking. So this is the Julian that had a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. And she was battling her own demons and going through her own depression and anxiety. So she was smoking, weed, cigarettes, all that stuff. And I didn't want that in my life because my parents smoked weed, and more specifically, my dad. I felt like he needed weed in order to be around us, in order to love us, in order to put up with us. And I found weed as as worse than like heroin because I felt like this took my father away from me. This is giving him a facade, and I hated it. So I gave her an ultimatum on either you can continue smoking or you can be my girlfriend, and she chose to be my girlfriend. And right then and there, I feel like started a tear between me and her that eventually led us to the point that we're at now. So while I was in culinary school, I became selfish. Not only was I a hypocrite, I was selfish. And being selfish in a relationship, it will never last. There was another girl that was her friend, and she was always telling her to break up with me, that I wasn't worth it, that I was a bad person. And I got so upset with both of them. I got upset with her the most, and I was saying, how can you love me and you're allowing people to talk about me, or you're allowing people to tell you to break up with me? And I blamed it on them. I didn't see that it was my fault. How can I tell the person that I love not to smoke weed because my parents or my father, it impacted him negatively, and she was doing it to cope with the loss? How can I tell the person that I love to give up friends when she's feeling low? How can I tell the person that I love that they're not all for me just because they're not doing what I want them to do fast enough? So ended up she ended up moving in with me 2 months when we started dating, and again there was a lot of arguments, a lot of fights, just because I always felt she was doing things behind my back. I thought I wasn't, good enough to be her boyfriend, therefore she was just using me, for things. And skipping ahead, we graduate culinary school and I ended up going to South Dakota. She follows me to South Dakota with, just some clothes on her back and, a couple suitcases, and leaving her mom, which still is in the situation that she's in. And she followed me. She followed her boyfriend, who treated her like dirt, who treated her like she was his property rather than a girlfriend. And she chose me. And it breaks my heart to know that I made someone into a monster, basically. I made someone into a person who hates. But anyway, getting in South Dakota, there was a time where we were going to air out everything that we have done so we can start fresh. And I told her, yeah, it'd be great. That's something we can do. I'm all for it. And then when she told me these things, here comes the selfish Julian. Here comes the hypocrite. I'm telling her, wow, look, I was right. You lied to me doing this. You were still smoking weed behind my back. You were doing X, Y, and Z. And that made us living together very toxic. And the turning point of our relationship, and the turning point of us being in South Dakota, there was a night where there was a party in the rec center, and she got herself something to drink. And even though I've drank myself, not that day, but I thought, look at her, gonna get drunk. She's gonna be like my parents. And I said some mean words to her, and I think that's when I lost her. That's when I think you know, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, because I really felt our relationship change the next day, or you know, like a month later. But I made a decision to come back to Tulsa, and I was gonna get, a cooking job here. Well, once we came back a couple of days later, we found out we were pregnant with my son, and that's when things changed. Decided to try to find an apartment as quick as possible so we can live together and we can start our little family. In South Dakota, I didn't care. Like, we were having sex a lot, and I didn't care if she got pregnant, because I wanted that family that I grew up wanting. I wanted that love. And true love is something you cannot rush. It is something that is built on the good, the bad, the ugly. And what we had was just bad and ugly. We didn't really have the good. So when we found out we were pregnant, I was excited, but I could tell that she was terrified because she's having a child by a monster, I feel like. So so throughout her pregnancy, I would still accuse her of doing things or accuse her of cheating, and I feel like I made her pregnancy pretty pretty shitty. And then I couldn't hold down a job. She had to work while she was pregnant, and I told her that I would take care of her, that she would be my queen, and I failed in that area. So so uh, a little bit before my son was born, probably 5 months before he was born, I decided to start smoking CBD, which is a compound of marijuana that doesn't get you high, but again, it's a part of the same plant that I told her not to consume, and she had to deal with the loss of a loved one by herself. So what gave me the right to handle my depression with that? And I felt like that drove her further away from me. You know, uh, she still supported me. That's one characteristic that she has. She will support you to the very end. She will forgive you for shit that you have done to her that is unforgivable. But anyway, CBD wasn't helping, so we kicked it up a notch to just full marijuana. And we both started smoking, and I could tell that she was still hurt by it. And we've had conversations about it, and I thought we got past it, but the hurt was always still there, and I'm pretty sure it's still there. Well, okay, actually, let me say she wasn't smoking with my son. I just realized my son was still in her. She wasn't smoking with him. I was smoking, but once he was born, she started smoking, and I was all for it because postpartum, postpartum was real, and it was kicking her butt. But during her pregnancy, I was just awful, and I feel like that was the characteristics I learned from my father because he always made my mom feel less than dirt. You know, he would tell her she was ugly, who would want her with so many kids, who would love her. She ended up finding happiness and is still happy, which is great. Stepfather needs to hurry up and marry her, but that's another time and another podcast. But yeah, that's how I was treating her. So let's go to after my son was born. So after my son was born, I thought finally I can be the man. I can I can be the man that I wanted when I was growing up. And I thought it was going well, you know. I thought I was being a good dad. Oh, excuse me. But I was being a bad partner. And that just drove to more and more arguments, more and more fights. So, as he was getting older, he was seeing us argue, and there was a time that I had enough. I was like, I can't do this with my son seeing this anymore. So I made the decision to separate, and that was the beginning of. Sorry about that. My phone storage filled up. Oh, where was I at? Hmm. Anyway, I guess podcasting and comedy. So I started doing that to fill the void or to feel like I was doing something good in my life. So I guess we can just skip because basically, through that time there was just a lot of arguing still, while we were separated. Still a lot of arguing, but I guess we could skip to the redemption part. So the redemption part of myself came when I started to ask God for forgiveness. They always say ask God for forgiveness, and of course I tried, but it's deeper than that. You ask God for forgiveness, of course, but you have to forgive yourself. So I started daily looking myself in the mirror and telling myself, Julian, I forgive you. Julian, you're worth greater, you're worth more than what you think you have or you think you deserve. Yes, you fucked up. Yes, you did so many poor shit in the past, but that's not what you're living right now. You're not living in the past. It's not a loop. It's not a loop of everything you've done. So why are you continue holding on to this baggage? And when I finally said those words, Julian, I forgive you, that evil me in the mirror, because I hated looking at myself in the mirror because the person looking back, I didn't recognize them. I truly felt like I had, not like being possessed, but I felt like I had a demon in me that was everything, the hypocrisy, the pornography, the hate, the jealousy, the the addiction to other things. I felt like that was all bottled into one being, and that being was staring back at me every time I looked in the mirror because that's who I was. You know, when I wasn't looking in the mirror, I could pretend he wasn't there. I could pretend that I'm okay. But looking in my eyes, I could see someone different. And once I came to terms with forgiving myself, I saw the innocent kid Julian again. Yes, I still have anxiety and other things, but I saw the glimpse of who I was before before I turned into the evil Julian, so to say. And now I just started daily reading my Bible. My pastor said, "How can I know God if I don't read His Word?" And now I'm trying to know Him as much as possible, as deeply as possible, because it's it's needed. That's what we were created to be. We were created to know God, to want to know Him, and especially being black. And I believe that the people in the Bible were black people, and the curse that was set on black people is what we are living now. That is why black people are in the position that they're in now. And that's like a whole nother thing. But me trying to get to know the Lord more, I feel like it's me trying to find my identity as a black person. Of course, my mom is white and I grew up with white people, but that's not who I was. No one sees me as a white man, or no one sees me as an individual with a white mother. They see me as a black man, and I will take that 100%. I love my black skin. I love everything about being black. I love my son, and he's damn near fully black. His mother's black, and I just love everything about it. Love everything about being black. But of course, it comes with its own challenges. It comes with, individuals who don't see. Guys, remind me to get more storage on my phone if I want to do podcasts. Anyway, it made me feel like I had an identity. So I am out of everything we've talked about, we are now at the spot that I am in now. So for the individuals who feel like they are less than, they feel like they are unloved, unwanted, or they feel like, even if you're a parent, if you feel like you're not doing the best that you can be, or doing the best that you can do, being the best that you can be, you have to make a decision right now. Because if you put it off, you're going to put it off. 1 year becomes 2 years, 3 years becomes just a mess of emotion because it all builds up over time. A lot of people say, I'll do it next year. We have the next year resolution. That's why I started with years instead of, one day, a week, a month. We put years in our life and we continue doing that. We get older, our children get older, people pass away, and we need now to make the best of the moments. So if you're feeling that hurt, look yourself in the mirror because that's the only way you're going to defeat this person. Weed will not help. Of course, it does its own miracle, but it's not going to help you come to terms with who you are. It will just Weed will help you accept who you are. So if you want to change, you need to do it on your own. You have to look that demon in the face and understand that I have to have a conversation with him so I can forgive myself for this. You know, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna take time. It's not easy. But every time you have a bad thought or have a challenging day, look yourself in the mirror or just tell yourself, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. And then you'll start to feel the joy because now that you've forgiven yourself, all the external things turn to like it falls into place. And you will always have the individuals who knew you before you became the better you. And they will tell you you're still not shit. You're still the hypocrite. You're still the guy who's addicted to this. You're still whatever. But you're not. Nothing they say is new to you because you started from the beginning of your life till now forgiving yourself. What can they say to you that you already haven't put behind you? What can they say that you already haven't cast into the fire? Now, not only they're seeing a better you're seeing a better you because you know where you would have took it before. You know what you would have said before. And you'll just start to feel happier. You'll start to smile more just because that demon is gone. You know, even even if you're, believe in God or not, you have a void or you have like another, I guess people call it soul, but you have that inside of you that needs to be filled. And it can be filled with hatred, it can be filled with love. And if you're human, it's probably filled with hatred and you feel empty, you feel alone, and that's what Satan uses to to break you down, to make you one of his. And once you feel, so all in all, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be hard. You're not gonna want to do it because you're comfortable with it, or you'll continue to lie to yourself that you're okay, that you'll take it day by day, and that's not true. You're going to end up losing time of your life. You're going to end up losing people who you're mad at just because you're too proud to say I messed up. Even if it wasn't even if you weren't the one who caused the altercation or the fallout, apologizing for the part that you had in it, that's going to be the toughest part. But I promise you, once you come to terms with defeating that demon, you will feel happier, you will feel more lively, you will want to spread it to other people because it's possible. A lot of people don't think it's possible, but it is. So, oh, I'm getting tired of hearing myself speak. So yeah, thanks for listening. I just wanted to let you know that you are loved.